I would like to call this joint department heads meeting to order at 8:32 on Tuesday, April 18th. So we will go through by alphabetical. So Tony? So we have it lined up for people that are watching, so when you come up, if you could give your department and your name.
Okay.
For
Tony
that.
Helmeke, Town Assessor. My report is for the last 3 months, pretty much reconciling the total grand list. It's a little bit more extensive than what I usually give you. It includes the state report with a lot of detail about the tax base. The grand list is healthy, it was healthy. Hopefully it complemented the budget process that you have this year. Inclusive of that, I have included the top 20 taxpayers for real estate, personal property, motor vehicles. I'd like to make note that between the months of February and May 15th being the deadline, that applicants that are interested in property tax relief over the age of 65, whose income is under $58,000 for a married couple and $49,300 for a single person, we are taking applications. We have about 80 homeowners that are receiving tax relief benefits now. There's also a deferral option, so we welcome people to call the office if they have any questions or concerns. I've also included a history of the grant list increases and percentage changes going back to 1955 that you might be interested in seeing, and the highlight will be the changes we've made to the website, inclusive and question and answers about the October 1, 2023 revaluation. We've refreshed the website to include a press release, as I mentioned, the Q&A, the request for proposal that went out last fall, and sales data for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023. The revaluation is October 1 of 23. We have a team in town several days a week starting to reconcile a lot of the data that's within the question and answer information that we have, and I'll give you more information as we proceed over the next couple months at the next meeting. So try to be brief. That's my report for this morning. I welcome questions.
Tony, I have a couple quick ones. Have we changed the income level for the exemptions?
For the tax relief for seniors,
Yeah.
It gets revisited annually with a slight change by the State Office of Policy Management.
Okay. And the reval, who determines how often that is? It looks like it's kind of jumped around.
Well, it's a state mandate right now. Every 5 years is
Right.
the statutory mandate. There's several towns that have asked for postponements or have some type of logical reasons to postpone revals or delay. But I'd say of 169 towns, almost all towns are on a pretty rigid schedule on that 5-year cycle.
On a 5-year.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not all the same 5 years.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's a staggered system. Yeah, that was set up years ago.
But it looks like we were tenure for a while, and
The law used to be 10 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
And changed to 3 years for about 6 or 7 years anyway.
Right.
And 5 years is settled in.
Right. So you don't see that changing?
No.
Okay. Any questions for Tony?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Tony. Okay, next we have Joe. Is Joe here?
He was looking around for
You're the only
himself.
Joe.
Wait, I know him.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Joe Larchevek from Post 53. I don't have anything to add to the report. It's been a quiet winter, which is a good sign. I'm looking forward to spring, so I'll answer any questions.
It looks like the active assailant,
He's
Yeah.
53.
Oops. oops, I'm sorry about that. Oh, it's in there, never mind. I'll ask that question later.
So Joe, the calls were down almost 7%. Is there any specific reason you're?
No, it was pretty much across the board. So, again, I think, we tend to see a dip, obviously, in the colder weather. People stay inside, and I think that, again, it's, our COVID numbers are pretty consistent to what they were last year. We've done 8 so far. COVID positive transports, I think we did 9 last year, so, we're right around there. Still taking all the precautions that need to be taken, but, hopefully we're on the back 9 of that.
Just thank you for hosting all the mental health first aid training programs. That's been great for the community, and I know that there's been a great response, and you guys are doing one again in a couple.
Yes.
So
Yeah, no,
thank you for
we love
that.
doing it, so I'm happy to help.
Are you guys good on staffing and equipment?
We can always use more adult volunteers, so if you can get the word out, we do a EMT class annually in September, and it's a great opportunity for community members to come in and get trained alongside the kids. We're always looking for help.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your report. Okay, next we have Mark McEwen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mark McEwen, Emergency Management. I'd like to call your attention to a few things. Our emergency operations plan is due into the state by the beginning of the year. We've been working on updating it and providing any detail changes that we can to not only the state, but our department heads for their involvement in the review process. So I'm hoping that we can get that signed off by the end of December. I also am working on a continuity of operations plan that was called out in the consultant's report. It was in draft form for several years. We're finalizing that. I'm going to work with the department heads going forward to try to get that resolved by the end of the year as well. And last but not least, I'd like to call your attention to, we're hosting a emergency operations center class at the police station in the EOC, May 23rd and 24th. It's 2 half-day classes for our department heads for some training and refreshing, and also for a tabletop exercise to conclude that. That's all I have for my report. Any questions? Sure.
Are we expecting any other, and in terms of numbers, not details, any other properties that are FEMA properties, such as the one on Crimmins Road?
There's 3 applications that were
Okay.
submitted to the state and to FEMA.
Yep.
The state has finalized their review. I haven't heard a word from FEMA.
Got it, okay.
So I really don't anticipate anything happening in the next few quarters.
Got
But
it. Okay, thank you.
On the active assailant training that's coming up, how many first responders do we consider in that number, and will they all be participating in that?
That's a good question. Do you have any idea, Chief? Numbers?
At least 10 from the police department.
Yeah, I think it's 20 to 30 with the fire department.
We have 8 to 10 for every class.
For each class.
And the training is being paid for by the region and part of the Homeland Security grant funds.
So that entire group or that population, do you expect will be attending those classes?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mark, can you talk a little bit more about the continuity report?
So basically, the continuity of operations plan is a plan to keep the town in business if an emergency occurs. Usually they're centered around physical structures, so if something happens to a facility and has to be taken offline, that we can adapt and keep the operation going. So things like IT and backups and all that come into play, and the accessibility of computers in today's world and all that kind of thing. You know, if we had to go off-site and operate for an extended period of time.
So what's your timing on completing that?
I'm 3/4 of the way through. It's really depends on the department heads, their schedules, if they can forward through it pretty quickly. I think it's doable. I think it's just something that's always been in the back of people's heads and just needs to get on paper.
Right,
It's been in draft form for almost a decade.
okay. All right, wrap that up. Any other questions for Mark? No? Okay, thanks, Mark. Is Jen here? Okay?
No,
No, okay. Do we have Eileen or anyone?
no?
No, okay. So Jen Charneski is not here, so next we're going to go to Bobby Bush.
Morning, all.
Morning.
The only thing I'd like to add is that our new part-time fire inspector, blight prevention officer, has started. He's working with Bob Salito on blight, and he attended his first blight review board meeting last week. He's getting up to speed pretty quick, moving along, and he's doing well. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Bobby, can you remind us of what, so it was heading this person, and I can't remember whether there was an additional hire that's contemplated in your department? I'm forgetting.
There is
what you
a
decided.
budget request to move one of the part-time fire inspector positions to full-time deputy fire marshal in
Right.
July.
Okay, and that's planned, or?
It's in the budget?
It's in the
Yeah,
budget,
it's in the
yeah.
So
budget.
as soon as
I
you
couldn't
get through the
remember
RTM.
what. Okay. Great.
I note that you described large fire investigations in your report. Is there a definition that breaks large from small or medium, or how do you quantify what is a large investigation?
Something that's going to that consumes a lot of our time and a lot of resources. The fire at Weburn is, an extremely large, the golf cart building. A lot of our time, a lot of, obviously, fire department time was on scene for it, so it lengthens our time, and then investigations following up with the insurance companies and their origin and cost investigators that they in turn hire.
I was wondering if there was an hours breakdown associated with that, like 40-man hours as opposed to 10-man hours, or is it just something you look at and you?
Just kind of look, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thanks, Bobby.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have David, Health Department.
Good morning. Dave Knopf, Department of Health. Just want to sort of take this opportunity to remind you how far we've come. Joe mentioned COVID. 3 years ago, we were in lockdown. And right now, we received notice just the other day from the State Health Department. We received this PowerPoint called End of the Public Health Emergency. So,
Here, here.
I mean, COVID is here, it'll always be here, and it's going to become normalized. It's going to become just like any other reportable disease. We'll get information on it. We will no longer be providing monthly summaries and reports because the state's not providing them to us. So it's just going to become just like the flu and any of the other diseases we report on. The other thing that I wanted to mention and call your attention to is our changes that we have to do with respect to our food inspection program. With the statewide adoption of the FDA food code, we are kind of caught in this transitional zone of utilizing a completely new platform for performing inspections. The previous inspection system was based on a scoring. So if the place was perfect, they got 100. And there were definitions for failure, score-based failures. And we used that as the key for our rating systems that you would see on the doorways going into establishments, the A, Bs, or Cs. With the discontinuation of the scoring system, we have to come up with a new matrix for determining what an A, B, or C is. The forms are completely different. So we've suspended issuing ratings for the time being, just as the other communities who've given ratings throughout the state have also suspended their ratings. In the meantime, what we have is we have a placard that's going to go in the window that has a QR code. So if you want to see the most recent inspection of any of the facilities, you can scan it with your phone and get right into the website where the most recent inspection reports are. So anybody can see what the inspection history of the facility is if you choose. The other piece of that placard is FDA code directs that inspection reports are available upon demand to a customer. So if you go into a place and you don't see the placard, you can ask for the inspection report, and they're supposed to give it to you. And if they don't, let us know. With that, I'll take any questions you might have. Yes.
I can imagine that moving the system is not easy, and I was curious, what if you had a restaurant that had failed a previous inspection, and now the criteria has changed, and we don't necessarily score them, but how do they get brought up to, a place where you're comfortable having them serve the public?
There's a process of, it's a risk-based inspection form where those violations that may cause illness are prioritized. So they have maybe 2 to 3 days to fix a problem, and we have to go back.
Right.
So what this is doing is it's going to generate not only a lot of time figuring out how to use the form, but it's going to generate a lot of kind of callback times for us. We always would do that anyway if we found that there were issues that were risk to the public. We would follow up immediately, but this is more detailed and it's more inspection reports. And again, all that will be online, but we have to follow up. So, and that is the big question.
Yeah.
Did I fail?
Right.
And it's like, well, if we have to come back in 3 days, that's sort of equivalent to failing.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
David, are the QR codes specific to that establishment?
I'm sorry?
The QR code?
Yes.
Is it specific
No,
to that?
it's general. So you
okay.
go into the website and
then you drill down.
You can pick, and that QR code, that report also includes as a bonus all the inspection reports for our cosmetology salons too.
Okay.
So you can go in there and look at any of the recent inspection reports for them.
So, in our society of decreasing attention spans, to go to a restaurant, look at a code, the code takes you to a general site that has all these reports, and then we're going to scroll through and find TAP reports for that restaurant that we're literally about to walk into. I'm just kind of wondering if there's now a fairly big gap between sort of instantly seeing the color-coded sign on the, on the door, or on the window next to the door, versus this more cumbersome process to kind of get that information. Just given the public and given my extremely short attention span, I'm just wondering if that really works for everybody.
No, we were fortunate in having our software system upgrade to be compatible with the FDA code. So all those inspection reports are uploaded as soon as we finish the inspection. So there is no time. As soon as we finish the inspection, we press submit, it goes into a database, it also goes online.
No, but to the earlier point, you'd still have to, say if I was at X restaurant, I would still
Yeah,
have to scroll through the reports to find.
It's the best we can do though. At least the information is there for folks who want to utilize it.
Yeah.
And also, if you think you want to go out to dinner in one of the places in town, it's also on our website, so you don't have to wait until you're going to the establishment to check the most recent inspection report. You just go to our website, and the inspection reports are there.
I guess,
What do you require?
yeah, I guess the question is there a forward thinking that there could be a more direct signage on there that says this is an A+ establishment, this is a B+ establishment?
Yep.
So there,
That's
in the
what
future, you're trying to figure out what that new
Yes,
system's
and what
gonna
we
be. Okay.
want to do is have it be the same with, ratings aren't mandated in the state.
Okay.
That was an an extra step that we decided to go here in Darien. Stanford did it, Norwalk did it, and there's several other jurisdictions in the state. What I think is really important is that we're all on the same page in how we do that. And that's not being organized or promoted by the state. That's us working together locally to come up with a plan that has a uniform approach to giving a rating system. We were working on doing that prior to COVID. We had the group of health departments that gave ratings, but with COVID, it all kind of stopped, just as adopting the FDA food code itself stopped. Then all of a sudden, boom, it's here.
Yep.
And we had very little time to kind of gear up for it.
So the QR code is temporary
Yes.
until we figure out, okay.
Yes, it's a
Great.
temporary suspension. In fact, I've submitted our revised regulations for legal review, and we've included the ratings in there, and just said, as part of the appendix, which will be the determining factors of giving an A, B, or C, to be determined. Okay. So we're looking forward and working towards doing that. I'm hoping to have it back in the fall.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, Susan?
Hi, Susan Barcia with Human Resources. I don't really have much to add to the report that I gave you, other than under labor relations, I mentioned that we were going to begin shortly our negotiations with the Public Works Union, and we did set our first meeting for the end of this week, so that is getting underway. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add unless anybody has questions.
Just curious, does it seem like the job market and applicants are streaming in, or is it slowing down, or what's kind of the temperature out there?
Actually, we've gotten more applicants recently than we have in the beginning. I have to say, when I got here, everybody said, oh, this was a really unusual quarter. We had so much recruitment going on, it's going to slow down. It has not slowed down yet. Some of the positions took a lot longer to find applicants for than others. We do have all of our, just for a little shout out since this is on TV, we do have all of our positions posted on our website, including seasonal stuff, so people can go on there to see what's open. But, I mean, it's not as good as it was before COVID. I mean, we're not getting as many applicants for any, whether it's full-time or part-time jobs as we used to. I think that's just kind of a sign of the times, but we have been successful this quarter filling a lot of positions, so.
Good. Is there enough applicants to fill in the summer positions, these part-time, or are you
We've
still
hired
gonna
a
be
few
stuck?
seasonals
Okay.
already. There's a couple still open, but actually I think, I mean, I don't know how it was last year, but a couple of the seasonal positions that don't start until May have already been filled.
Oh, great.
So,
Do you have a timing for when the compensation and classification study results would be announced? I mean, you had progress here, but not a sense of when you provide a final report.
yeah, they had told us 3 to 4 months back in January, so we're still kind of on that timeline. Right now, this month is busy because we've got the department. I'm just now getting so the job descriptions went through several iterations. There was the interview, then the consultants revised the job descriptions, then they came to me and I went through them, and then they went to Kate and she went through them, and I'm just now sending them back to the department heads for their final kind of review before we send them back to the consultants. And this happens to also be the month that we're doing performance evaluations, so these guys are really busy doing that. We're about to start open enrollment, so it's a busy time. I'm hoping to have them done by the end of, I would hope by the end of May. That's my goal, so we'll see if that happens. Then as soon as I get it back from the department heads, we get it back to the consultants, and then it's in their hands for a little bit. But they were working on, as you recall, I don't know if you remember, we did this along with New Canaan. The reason for this timing, we weren't originally going to do it at this time, but we did it when we did because New Canaan was doing their same salary survey. So they were concentrating a little bit on New Canaan first before they got to Darien. So things started a little bit later for us, but we're in full swing now. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
No? Okay, thanks, Susan. Okay, Ally?
Good morning, Ally Ramstock, Human Services. I actually do have something to add. I forgot to mention that we hosted our first mental health Paula Sutliff, public health nurse, and I hosted our first mental health first aid training. Thank you again, Joe, for letting us, for graciously hosting us. So it was actually quite a few of the people in this room, many department heads. And Kate. And then we also opened it to 10 employees. So we had, I think it was 25 people. So it was, I think it went well. We'll see. And now we have a new one coming up for the whole community, May 23rd and 25th, open to any Darien resident or someone who serves the Darien population. And that's have to add.
I just had 2 quick questions. I know that you were given the ARPA funds and you've used, what, 25,000? Oh, no.
20,000.
20,000. Do you have any other things that might be kind of a new or innovative use that you've seen that you're maybe thinking, or are we going to stay along the track of some of the trainings that they've done, which are phenomenal? I just wasn't sure.
That's a good question.
Okay, yeah, no, I just was curious.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's looming in the back of my head is spending the ARPA funds. I know
Right.
that Jen and Kate and I were hoping that maybe after budget season was done and Jen was done with that we can kind of put our heads together and see how we're going to go forward with the ARPA funds.
Yeah. It's a little tricky with mental health. We've tossed around some ideas of how we could assist residents who are in need of providers, how we could do that, but understanding that the funds have a limited time frame. It's not like we'd be able to provide a grant for 10 years.
Right.
So we've tossed some ideas around, but after the budget season's done, I think we'll get some more concrete plans together.
Sounds good. And the only other question I had was that what needs do our residents now have as a result of the changes to this Operation Fuel, now that the benefits have been reduced by half?
Well, and since I wrote this report,
Oh, no.
they now closed the whole program down for the rest of the season until and so we had people who had pending applications. We then had to, and they said that they weren't even guaranteeing that those were going to be approved. So the whole way that whole thing panned out was less than desirable, but it's tough because, as you know, like the energy bills are off the charts now.
Yes, they are.
So if necessary, if someone did have a shut-off notice, we have funds that we can, including the ARPA essential needs funds that we can use and other pools of money, but we'll have to help some people if necessary.
Thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
I didn't realize, I was reading the Operation Fuel statement that you had in the report. And the significant increase, if I'm understanding this correctly, isn't with the fuel, oil, heat rates, it's more electricity driven, or is that inaccurate?
No, it's either one. So Eversource gave $10 million to Operation Fuel, and so they were able to raise the income level, so it's more moderate income, not just low income. But it's for any heating source, so it could be for your oil, or it could be for gas or electric.
But do we know the first line, due to the significant increase in requests for energy assistance this season, is it equally driven between electricity and
Yeah, it
oil,
depends.
or?
I mean, throughout the state, it depends. I mean, our low-income housing here at the Heights, it's all electric heat, so
Right,
that's a substantial amount of our clients, quite a few of our clients. I don't know what the numbers are, but because they raised the income levels, so many more people applied.
Right.
So.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thanks, Ally.
Thanks, Ally.
Okay, next is IT.
Morning.
George Ariola, Information Technology. I have nothing further to add. Answer any questions.
Thank you.
Cool.
George, the cybersecurity audit, when are you making recommendations on that?
I'll check with Jeff.
Okay.
I know that they've gone back to us, and we did sit with them for a little while. And I think we're still waiting for them to get back to us on something.
Okay.
But I'll double check and I'll get back to you.
So George, the Board of Selectmen IT Committee kind of wrapped up their work last week, and an integral part of those recommendations were a set of policies that pertain to the IT world around things like procurement and disaster recovery and reporting, that sort of thing. I'm just kind of curious, it might be worthwhile just to sit with you and Jeff at some point to make sure that those policies have in fact gone from the committee and into the department, and they're useful for you.
Okay.
But if you see Jeff, just mention that to him.
I'll mention to him soon.
Well, we're on TV, he'll see this, but it would be good just to make sure that all that gets operationalized and not lost. Jeff conceptualized a lot of that work, and it was valuable. So.
Okay. Will do.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
No? Thanks, George.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Okay, next we have Jeremy.
Morning, Jeremy Ginsberg, Director of Land Use. Planning and zoning report's pretty self-explanatory. Happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
Thank you.
It's nice to see the construction at Road 9, or at least the demolition. So actually looks like it's going to happen, so.
Yes, so as Federal Realty is finishing up, Roten Heights is getting underway, yes.
I did take a picture of the sign up there, that kind of last of the 1950s sort of vintage, but nice to see the progress.
Yes, very much so.
I'm hoping that David does something terrific with the Corbin sign.
Yes, he has talked to me about finding a home for it.
Yeah,
I think at least temporarily, it's probably going to go in his office, but it's a classic sign of
It is.
Darien, and he did want to preserve it.
When are they thinking the Bank of America comes down?
I think the Bank of America folks are going to move into the new building for training, Bob, this week, next week?
Yes, this week they're moving in for training.
And then open to the public probably the first week of May. And some of the other tenants are going to come over, walk across the street, and I would expect that demolition will be posted probably in late May, with demolition underway in June and July starting.
So when they do that building, they won't need to shut down the post road, will they?
I think there may be certain periods, but generally similar to the, I'll call it the north side of the post road near Corbin, where there'll be construction fencing up for safety reasons. There will be some blasting near the turnpike, which they'll have to coordinate with the state DOT, but it'll be a hole in the ground for a while.
Right. So, and we'll be closing Old Kings Highway for that work. So probably good not to have that all happening at the same time, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Jeremy. Next we have Pam.
Good morning. Pamela Gary, Parks and Recreation. I don't have anything to add except to highlight that if you haven't been over to see Weed Beach and Cherry Lawn, more so Weed Beach, our parks crew has done an incredible job removing invasives. And what I'd like to add is I've had questions about what exactly are those invasives. There are trees of heaven, bittersweet vine, poison ivy, greenbrier, honeysuckle bush, and they've removed dead cherries and maple trees, and they've just added to the landscape. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Pam, was that because of the mild winter and they had time to do some other?
Yes.
It was.
Yes,
Okay,
they
so
did a lot of work.
So it's not something that we can count on every year.
No, we're going to be working that into their schedule.
You will.
Last year, we hired a vendor who did not work out for us and set us back quite a few months. And we met with Sandy and the crew, and they're really interested in doing that work. And they're professionally okay with highlighting what needs to come out. So we're going to be working with them.
Okay. Well, that's
But
good.
right now, during this season, just not, it's impossible. So we'll start up again our work in August through, hopefully if it's a mild winter, again next year. So they've just made huge strides.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
I'd also like to highlight that the flagpole is reinstalled and up and flying at Weed Beach as well. That
Thanks
just
to
got
the,
done 2 weeks ago.
thanks to the foundation for
Yes,
that
thank you to the
donation.
foundation. Very generous.
Who steals a water fountain?
No sign of it either. Wasn't
Really?
left behind. No, they just ripped it off the wall.
And are we concerned about the new ones? Are we padlocking them or anything?
We haven't been concerned, I don't think, has it ever been ripped off before? I don't think so. So we have had a bit of vandalism there on our pickleball
Right.
courts. And then that, but, you know, we've talked to the police department. We'll do what we can to make, you know, we've also had some break-ins with cars there. But, you know, crossing fingers that that was just a one-off.
Yeah. We have no cameras there or anything, huh?
We don't have any cameras in any of the parks, no, but we certainly have had some discussions about that. Because we've certainly had, you know, here and there, things, Weed
Right.
Beach, we had a bench up on top of the pavilion. We've had lots of areas of partying and.
Vandalism.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tilly Pond, the painting.
Mhm.
One at Cherry Lawn.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I want to thank you for including the bathroom barrier, because I had quite a few questions about what was that constructing? Porta potties are going to be going in there?
Porta potty.
Okay,
One.
one porta potty.
One handicap,
And cleaned weekly?
cleaned weekly.
Great.
and taken away seasonally.
Okay, so it's
not
only
a
there
permanent
for
structure.
spring,
It's not
summer,
permanent. It's
fall.
there, yep, spring through fall.
Okay.
We've had it there and had complaints from the neighbors.
About what it looked like?
Yeah. So I think this was a great job by the crew to do that.
Built all in-house.
Great.
And, yeah, we have had a complaint, but we seem to have diffused that. And, moving forward, hoping, I know our coaches and classes that we have outside are really happy that it's there, because it was challenging not having any facility
Yeah.
with elderly,
Little kids.
little
too, yeah.
kids, coaches being there for hours, and no facility to go to the bathroom. So it just, hopefully this is the solution.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Two quick ones. When does the Park and Rec Commission make the decision about whether or not to put lines on the tennis courts or pickleball?
It's on the agenda
Okay.
for this Wednesday night. However, it's not I don't think it's up for vote.
Got it.
We are going to be discussing the data results of the community survey. So we are, going through that data now, and we'll have that information Wednesday night. And then they will have to make a decision. We're hoping to have those painted in June. And so they have May meeting to make that decision. Perhaps but it could be that they make it Wednesday night. I'm not certainly aware.
Without doing a spoiler alert on the survey results, do you know about how many people participated in the survey?
About 580, just under 600.
Thank you.
Another big year for the programs, huh?
Big.
Wow. Really.
Yep. They're bringing a lot of revenue and a
Congratulations.
lot of, it's
Yeah.
it's been phenomenal. The crew, everybody in the office has been fantastic. We had a pretty big turnaround in our office, but it's been smooth. It's been really good. Everybody is doing great.
Thanks, Pam. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Chief?
Good morning, folks. Don Anderson from the Police Department. I trust you found the quarterly report comprehensive, as typical. I appreciate my staff assisting me doing this. I think it is a fair and accurate representation of what the Police Department did over the last quarter. As always, I'm happy to take any and all questions. Unlike planning and zoning, I'm sure there will be some questions for the police chief.
I have one. The Citizen Police Academy, are you going to offer that again?
Yes, we're probably going to do that in the fall because of the overwhelming demand. We did have to turn people away this time, so yes, we're planning on doing that again. It was a resounding success, and so much of a success, one of our residents gave us a $5,000 donation to our gift fund because they were so appreciative of the Citizens Police Academy. I think it was an eye-opening experience of people that were there. Some of the things you heard me say time and time again, an educated consumer is our best customer. To find out why police officers do what they do, and more importantly, or equally importantly, why we don't do what we don't do. So it was a complete success. So yeah, we'll be running that again.
Okay. And the RAD program, is that right now?
Pardon me?
The RAD, is that ongoing right now?
It hasn't commenced yet.
Hasn't started.
They sent out the applications for that. That will be coming in the next month or two.
Okay.
It was long awaited. We were waiting on the equipment. There was a supply chain problem with that, so we have it now.
Okay. So is it full as far as for residents?
I'm not sure where it stands right now, because I know it went out for town employees as well.
Okay. Okay.
You said the Citizen Police Academy was well received. How many attended?
I think it was 23 or 24.
That's great.
And that's about the capacity of our training room to be comfortable.
Right.
But we could probably squeeze in a few more.
I was just curious. Yeah, that's great.
I saw, you reported your overtime and comp hours. Are those in line with what you typically see?
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything on an outlier there. I think this board knows, I think you've heard me say before, the generation of employees now want comp time more than overtime a lot of the time. So we do try to balance that. But a lot of times we're not paying overtime, which does have some built-in savings to the town because the officer cannot take the comp time unless it doesn't cause a squad shortage. That doesn't mean something else doesn't happen down the road, someone calls in sick, but there is some savings there, so they can't use that time if it's gonna cause overtime at the time they take it. So it's a balancing act, but I think we're, by and large, we're on target. We do, TJ Moore, our IT lieutenant, does a pretty good job on some XY magic that he does to give us the number that we need for overtime, and we're pretty much on target for that. It is what it is. We have minimum manpower for staffing, and I don't think there's any outliers in this quarter for overtime.
Thanks.
But, I would add, that all depends on our staffing. If we're short, if we don't have a full 51, we're going to have more overtime and less cost and salary. So it can change just because of that.
Yeah.
And congratulations on the 4 new hires, right? Is that?
Yeah, this is an ongoing chess game.
massive.
The pieces are getting in the right spot on the board here. I've been
Yeah.
working on this for my entire time
I
as
know.
being the chief, trying to get this staffing on all of our civilian staff and sworn staff, and the pieces are starting to fall into place.
Well, it says a lot about the Darien Police Department because this is a, nationwide crisis, and obviously you guys are
No, we have been,
giving some good offers out there, so that's
yeah,
great.
we have been doing better than most because of the comprehensive package that we offer and the support of the residents and the elected and appointed officials that we have here. That is our selling point, and that's what allows us to continue getting candidates in here.
Well, thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how are you feeling about just trends in some of this illegal activity? I read through your notable incidents report, and even on my way to the train station the other day, there were some boxes and clothes strewn out on Park Lane, and there had been a burglary just right around here nearby Town Hall. And just reading these reports and talking to people that I know, feels like there's increasing concern over some of all that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about all this?
Well, perception is reality a lot of time, right? And it seems like there is criminal activity, not just here in Darien, but across the board. It seems to be happening on a more frequent basis. Some of that is, predicated on the fact that a lot of this is property crime. And the state legislature has truncated back what police can do for property crime. So that's troubling, right? I don't think we've had, an uptick in index crimes that people should be worried about here. I still think, and I use this analogy quite often, that if you go downtown to go to Rico's or Sena or 1020 and you park your car at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night to get out of your car, do you have a perception that you're going to be unsafe? The answer is no, right? And our metric is the absence of crime, whether we're doing a good job or not. I think we still do a better than most the job on keeping the town safe. But yeah, crime is troubling to me. I'd like to have it to be zero. That's just not reality, but I would certainly like it to be. But the bellwether index crimes that the FBI reports as, when they're talking about crime statistics, we're historically very low on, and we remain very low, and I intend on keeping it that way. But yes, does it keep me up at night? Does it give me gray hair? Yeah, I want to see no crime here. If I can just, real anecdotally, a quick story. We had 2 cars stolen here, right in the area of the town hall, from the driveway. Keys were in both of them. The cars were recovered in New Britain. 4 juveniles were arrested. They took one of the cars to one of the tow yards. The juvenile came back with a second fob and stole it again out of the tow yard in New Britain. So I can't emphasize the fact enough that you have to protect your own property. Most of these petty type crimes would not be occurring if you protected your property.
Lock your cars.
Checking to make sure I have my keys.
Any other questions, any other concerns that I might be able to address?
Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next, I think we have Darren.
Morning, Darren Ostafine, standing in for Ed Gentile on vacation. The only really big visible news is we're paving now. This is the first time before the summer that we're out there paving, so you probably see us. We achieved our goal of taking care of the school first, the Middlesex Middle School on Hollow Tree Ridge Road. It was very important to us to finish that and get out of that area before school recess ended, so.
It
the
looks
rest of-
amazing.
Yeah, it looks great.
Excuse me?
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Huge.
Thank you.
And quick,
We
very
have the
quick.
temporary lines up. We're going to come back and paint them permanently.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Christie Hill, great, looks good.
Thank you. We didn't open Gorham's Pond tide gates on time. We're going to work on fixing them. If we can get to that before Memorial Day, we will. And if we don't, we will not open the gates after Memorial Day. And of course, only with executive approval, we'll be checking in with Ms. McNally.
That was one of my questions. So they might not be opened at all this second session?
That's possible.
Right, okay.
The fish ladders are open. All the anadromous fish are capable of reaching upper Goodwives River and Stony Brook River. But the tide gates themselves for flushing action of Gorham's Pond proper did not occur. We do thank the police. They sent some divers down and helped us diagnose the problem, and we're expecting them to help us again when we finally get to it.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for that. And I wanted to say thank you to your department for their fiscal awareness on saving the town over $300,000 on delaying the paving. It was
Yeah,
a very astute
nobody can
call.
predict the oil prices. They went up. They've come down a little bit. So overall, there is still a great savings, but the way it works is the day they pave is the day that we look at what the number is. So we're predicting that we're going to do very well because we're out of sync with the rest of the towns who traditionally wait until after July 1st. Of course, we're going to look at our program again after July 1st because we'll be checking the oil prices then. We have another program to continue, so.
I have a quick question. A resident asked, and I was curious, the section of West Avenue that's behind the Federal Realty project is fairly ripped up in some spots and very uneven, and wondering, I know it's really not on the list for repaving, but do you know if there's any kind of idea that either the town or federal would repave that section? Because it is fairly uneven and kind of a mess right now.
Is your question about paving?
Yeah, like for the West
Okay.
Avenue, that section back there.
Yes. You're talking about on the back side of the federal project?
Correct, correct.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
We're going to first put a sidewalk in. We don't want to pave and then dig it up to put the sidewalk in. We
Right.
want to put the sidewalk in, and hopefully that'll happen this summer, and then right after that, we'll pave it
Got
and be
it.
done with that area completely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Darren?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have Susan and Kara. Is Susan and Kara?
Good morning, Susan Gray, Registrar. Good morning, Kara Gately, Republican Registrar. I think our report was pretty comprehensive. There's the numbers that, through the canvas. Active registered voters has slightly declined. We expect with registration activities, we have a few of them coming up, that those numbers will come back to where they were at the time of the election last year. I'm sure everyone's big question or interest is about early voting.
Yeah.
Still unclear. The next legislative session for both the House and the Senate, the bills have made it out of committee. 3 bills have made it out of committee. Slight differences in all of them on time period of the early voting period and whether and the extent to which referenda and primaries are included in having an early voting period. The Senate and the House both have sessions on April 27th. So that will be, if this is going to go forward, that will be, after those dates will be when we know what will happen. think that's pretty.
We did learn, we attended the ROVAC Registrar of Voters Conference 2 weeks ago, and I did speak to Gabe Rosenberg, who's the SOT's General Counsel and Chief of Staff, and he gave me some good news. We are going to be able to hold the same-day voting registration and early voting in the same location with the same election officials. So that's going to save us a lot of money, because I think what we're looking at is probably the 14-day early voting. We don't know yet, but the 10-day that SOTS is recommending is not being discussed as much as the 14-day. That's sort of what the buzz was at the ROVAC conference. So we may be looking at 14 days, which will start on a Sunday and end on the Sunday before the election. It'll be 8 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Wednesday and Thursday of the second week, it will be 12 hours, 8 to 8.
Wow.
So it's going to be a long time.
Whatever, I mean, I imagine right now, so you're looking at the different possibilities, scenarios that might come out of the legislature, and preparing yourselves to obviously have to nimbly move to adhere to whatever comes out in terms of law, or maybe it ends up not passing it at all, but you're looking at each scenario and planning accordingly.
Just days are different. Pretty much they contemplate, it'll be similar to absentee. It's essentially same day registration and balloting. So like you would do, the process and procedures will be very similar to the absentee ballot procedures. You get an envelope, you put the ballot in the envelope. It does not get run through a machine on that day. They're not voted, they're not counted. And so if people aren't registered, people who are staffing the early voting days will be set up with CVRS, which is the centralized system that allows access to the voters. They will be marked with an A or an E. Like A when they do absentee, if they go to the town clerk's office. E if they go to the spot that's set up for the early voting. The early voting process will allow people who are not registered to register to vote, whereas absentee balloting, they can't, they have to already be registered. And then the process, they'll be scanned, barcoded outer envelopes, they'll be retained, they'll be maintained, we'll turn possession over. The right to go custody control of these ballots becomes very important. They will be turned over to town clerk, affidavit signed, things will be put in a vault. They'll be segregated, absentee and early. People then, if they try to vote in person, they will have the books, when it ends on the Sunday, will have time to prepare the poll books, and people will have an E or an A next to their name signifying that they have already done some form of balloting, so that they can't vote that morning or that day, that afternoon, unless they want to pull their ballot.
I just want to add one thing. We are a little concerned about the chain of custody of these ballots. That's a big concern.
Huge.
And since we will have such a long day of early voting that's proposed in any of these bills, we're not quite sure where we will hold these ballots. So at the conference, a big concern of registrars all across the state was that we may have our own safe or vault to put these in, because town hall will be closed when we finish our early voting, and we need to have access to a vault or a location to keep these secure. So they're looking into that. So many pieces are in motion right now, and we'll keep you updated. The landscape really changes every day. We hear something else. I wanted to add one more thing. I don't want to take up any more time. The Speaker of the House, Matt Ritter, there was a report, an article in one of the papers, everything was Connecticut Insider 2 weeks ago, and he said that he believes that early voting will not happen until the presidential election. Secretary of State Thomas is pushing for it to happen in the municipal elections. So I made a call to Matt Blumenthal's office yesterday. I haven't heard back, just to get a sense of where they think this is going. And time will, because there's a time constraint here to get everything done. But it will happen either this year or next year.
Well, certainly as these chain of custody issues become more clear to you, if there's anything on the town side that we can do to assist, because obviously that's the key. I mean, there'll be more meetings, and obviously you work with Monica's office, so let's make sure that chain of custody issues are identified and resolved in advance.
Yes.
Yeah, it can't be that one of you could access the ballots without the other, your partisan counterpart. I mean, you can't have a single party having access to those ballots at all.
That will not happen.
Just setting that standard so everybody can be comfortable that there's sort of bipartisan control over all this.
It's that. I mean, I think we both sort of believe in the integrity of each other, and I don't think for us it's a partisan issue. It's more of a practical, like them getting lost. And most litigation that we see, and I think early voting to me is very similar to absentee and the absentee ballot process. They've even advised us to make our procedures for early voting, in line and as close to the procedures as the town clerks have for the absentee ballot process. And so the litigation that you see in this state around contested elections, the lion's share of them are in the absentee ballot process because ballots are filled out. And while there's a barcoding system, which is great, in larger municipalities, when there's the volume of them, they get, control, custody and control becomes really important, and things, I think the case law shows they get misplaced. And so that's really, I think, the primary concern is making sure they're secure. We know the numbers, which is why there'll be sort of affidavits of we signed over this many, and it would be both of us, to not one party having the full control, and then we turn them over to the clerk. The clerk also signs the affidavit. So we're agreeing on the number and the day that they got turned over, and then those ones won't be touched again. And then the next night when early voting ends, if they're staffed, we'll do that. If we're not staffed and we do some other, like Susan talked about, alternative of securing our own vaults or safe, again, the timing gets difficult if it's going to be for this fall, then the custody and control will not require the turnover. It will be a separate, safer vault.
What's mandated in all of the plans is that, in all of the bills, is that we prepare a plan to submit to the Secretary of State. And so all of these issues will be in the plan, and we'll be submitting that plan to you as well.
Thank you.
But we can't write this plan yet until we know exactly what is expected of us, so.
Seems fair.
I guess the last point, the Secretary of State did seek $25 million in bonding, which I think all the registrars were happy about, as were town clerks, and I'm sure towns and municipalities will be happy about, to fund 3,000 new tabulators for 750 polling locations. 40 of those are contemplated to be high or medium speed to deal with the large number of absentee that are folded that, we will not be getting one of the high, or, if the bonding goes forward and the new tabulators are purchased, I don't anticipate, it was made pretty clear, like the smaller towns will not get the high or medium speed. I don't think we really need them. But she has requested and fully advocated for bonding and having, this fully be, funded properly at the state level. And it was a concern for everyone.
One last quick question. It says if requested, your office will collaborate with the two assisted living. What historically has happened there, and do you include Atria in that group?
If they request that we assist with supervised absentee balloting, right, instead of, say, paid campaign staff or paid people going in and running around, nursing or assisted living homes, they can request that the registrar's of voters office goes in. People, one from each party will go over, assist, they'll do the absentee ballot applications ahead of time. It's assisting with, did you fill it out properly? Have you put it in there? And then returning it to the town clerk. We've also discussed reaching out and educating, right? There's normally a patient coordinator or an activities coordinator. There's a person at each of the facilities that kind of handles this stuff, driver's license, like all kinds of outreach and provides support for the residents, and sort of reaching out and doing some education on, there's permanent absentee ballot applications that, maybe you guys can do that can cut down on the, process of filling out the application every year, getting the ballot, then filling it out. If a lot of those residents meet the standards and want to be fill out the application for permanent absentee, it sort of cuts out a step for them and then makes the administration and processing of the absentee ballots a lot simpler.
So are you driving that, or are you waiting for them to ask you?
I've reached out and
You
sort of
have reached
educated
out
them
to all,
on,
including Atria,
here's
right?
the information, here's permanent absentee ballots, maybe your residents are interested in this. I obviously can't, reach out on my own to every resident and start
Actually, so we're just required to go to these residences if they request that we do.
If they request.
So
Okay.
Atria traditionally, for example, I think since I've been here, I haven't done any registration. You can do registration also, voter registration. I haven't done any absentee ballot, supervised absentee ballot voting or registration at Atria, but at any time they could reach out. And I did want to say one more thing, I'm so sorry. What may come out of some of these bills is that a town that has a population of over 20,000, and we just got in that range, will need to hold a public hearing to determine whether or not we want to have a second polling location for early voting.
Okay.
Ultimately, the registrars will decide, no matter what the outcome of the public hearing is, we'll decide whether or not we want to implement that, but that is another thing that has just come up.
Okay.
And we learned about it.
Okay.
And that's all we've learned since our report was
Okay.
sent to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Beth.
Good morning, Beth Paris, Senior Center. I guess the thing I want to add is yesterday started the program specialist. So after 4 months, I'd have a partner again, and gave her an overview of everything that she's going to be doing, and she came back today. So it's all good news. But it's going to be quite a training period too, but I'm looking forward to it. And very happy that we were able to keep growing the program through that 4-month absence too. And I'd like to say that 7% lower falls might be up to us, that we were open and busy and had so many people coming to the center during this wonderful mild winter, so.
Your lunches have really picked up. What do you top out at? Do you have a number?
On an average day, lunches are usually now about 30 people average. On an entertainment or event day, up to 80 at this point. So it just depends on what's going on. And if we have certain classes, the lunch is higher for certain classes as well.
Beth, do you need more volunteers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Definitely.
Everyone out there, please, Beth is fantastic to work with.
Thank you. That you saw in the beginning of my report, there were actually, I did it in a constant contact, if anybody gets our constant contact and is reading it, there were 4 folks that without them I would have not made it through this 4 months. And they gave between 15 and 20 hours a week, supplementing and helping us with our computer programming, event planning, introducing speakers, making sure our lunch ran smoothly.
That's
and
fantastic.
I cannot underscore, without them, I could not have done it. So, yeah, awesome.
But you're terrific to work with too, Beth.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Just quick, how's the out-of-town membership piece going?
Out-of-town membership fee has not happened yet.
Okay.
It is definitely in discussion. Actually,
Okay.
I started that with Caitlin, who's our new program specialist.
Got it.
We're determining now, and I think we're going to sit down with Kate to talk to her about it as well, whether we want to wait until we have a synergy with our My Senior Center, which is our software program that we use, and start with actually the computer check-in at the same time that we do the renewal of membership, and see if we want to do those things together, or whether we want to roll it out for this July and do it in a more primitive way on an Excel sheet with our wonderful billing assistant keeping track. So we're yet to be determined. So.
Thanks. Okay.
Anything else?
No, thanks,
Okay,
Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy?
So good morning. I'm Kathy Larkins, the dreaded tax collector in town. So I just have an update to my report in terms of where collections stand. As of yesterday, I was at 99.49, and that compares to the prior year at the same date as 99.52. So I'm 3 basis points behind. I am reaching out to all property owners, all businesses, and as a result of some of that outreach, I've taken in another $187,000. Looking at what's outstanding, there's 66 properties, of which 4 commercial, and they represent 25% of the outstanding dollars. And the other 62 are residential, and that's 75% of the dollars. So that's where we are. And I'm going to work as hard as I can to get as much as I can in. I should be able to at least get into the 99.6 range. I'm not sure if I'll be able to achieve the 99.79 that I got last year, but I will give it my best effort. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
No, great job, Kathy. Next, Krista?
Krista McNamara, Town Clerk. In addition to my report, I have a couple of updates. Last night, the RTM met, and with 66 members present, they voted Mark Adaletta as the new member of the Great Island Advisory Committee. Mark has been a member of the RTM since 2005. He is the chair of the Public Works Committee, chair of his district committee. He sits on the Rules Committee. So he'll be a great addition, I believe, to the Great Island Advisory Committee. There were actually 2 RTM members who interviewed last night. They both gave speeches, and the body chose Mark. Also at last night's meeting, they accepted the gift of $15,000 for the McGuan, the gift from the Darien Little League. So for Pam, you can get going. A couple other items that have come up in the meeting as I've sat here with the cybersecurity audit that you had asked about. One component of that were cameras, and that's between my office and the Registrar of Voters, and we are waiting for the quote that Public Works is working on with the camera people, so we're still waiting on that, but we would like to move forward once we get a number, whether it works for this budget or we have to put it out a year. We believe having cameras on our ballots are important for security. Similar to what David was doing with the ratings for the restaurants you were talking about and posting restaurant ratings, for liquor licenses, every establishment in Darien who serves liquor must have a liquor license. It's a new initiative from my office that all these licenses also must be filed with the town clerk. We have noticed there is a fair amount of non-compliance with this initiative, and this is pure profit to the town. So we are now starting to reach out to these establishments. We know they have the license, they're in compliance with the state, they're not compliant with us to have a stamped copy on file with my office. So we'll be looking around, so if you're out and about in town, you can ask for their liquor license, and if you don't see a stamp with Krista McNamara's signature, they need to come in. And lastly, again, working with the Registrar of Voters for the upcoming elections, we are certainly more than happy. We will be working with their office and our vault if they need to store the ballots and this transfer of custody into my vault for secure placement. But they'll work on the times and days in which they need to access that. And happy to take any questions.
Krista, sorry. Chris, I see the conveyance tax is off quite a bit. One question, we have a flat tier on ours, right? So I know the state has 3 tiers on their collection, but we're just
Well, it
quarter
tiers
point.
depending upon, right, how the sale price. The
Right.
state added that extra one, right?
Right, and we do, they have 3, we have only 1,
Right.
right? Okay, I just want to make sure, okay. Any questions?
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Next, Treasurer, Joan?
Morning. Joan Hendrickson, Treasurer, and the only thing I have to add is you received the March portfolio report, and the general fund has crossed $1 million in terms of earnings. We're at $1,038,933.99, so as of March. So any questions?
Great job, Joan.
Great.
So excited, no questions.
Jim?
Good morning. Jim Cameron, TV 79. I want to give a shout out to some of the folks in this room who've joined us for the Inside Town Hall series. In the last quarter, we did interviews with the Sewer Commission, the Tax Assessor, Fire Marshal, Parks and Rec, ZBA. We also did a highlight on scouting in Darien. And no, they will not be doing the tag sale in person this year. It's all online. In the packet I gave you are results of the TV 79 viewer survey that we did. We try to do this every couple of years just to get a sense of who's watching, what are they watching, when are they watching, why are they watching. And it's all pretty granular in there. You can look at the details if you want, but for the viewers' benefit and everyone else in the room, I thought they might be interested in just a couple of key findings as I saw them. Most people are still watching TV on cable, although YouTube use is increasing. 1/3 watch TV 79 at least once a week. More than that number watch for special coverage. 2/3 say they watch to stay up with town news. Almost half of the respondents said they're on a town board or commission, and they use TV 79 to watch meetings that they can't attend in person. 1/3 say that watching TV 79 is part of a civic duty to stay informed. We've seen increased viewership on the TV 79 website, and I think increasingly people are moving toward the on-demand model as opposed to tuning in, watching a meeting live when it happens. Depends on what, how crucial the activity at that meeting may be, depending on the agenda. Viewership is highest in the evenings. Highest viewership numbers go to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, Board of Finance, P&Z. Over 80% of the respondents say that they get and they look at the program guide or follow us on Twitter. A couple of comments from the open-ended comment section. People said they need better enforcement of microphone usage. So we're going to inform chairs to remind them, get up to the microphone. Mr. Jack Davis can sit in the back of the room and opine all he wants during Board of Finance meetings, but he's off microphone. They also asked for a better way of searching for meetings by topic or keyword. And that's something that I think we could certainly work on. A few ideas. Somebody suggested live beach cams so they can see, how high the surf is or how high the tide is.
The surf here in Darien.
Or who's wearing what. Some tutorials on pedestrian safety. They also asked for more interviews with town officials. So those of you who I have not approached yet to do an interview about your town department, expect to hear from me shortly. Any questions?
Jim, how many people took that survey?
Not as many as I would like, not as many as took the park survey. I think the respondent rate, even though I sent it out to about 1,400 people on our mailing list, we got about 100 responses. Now, what does that say to me? I tried really hard to get people to offer an opinion, but a couple of people have said, well, they're not offering an opinion because they're happy with what they've got. So if they were not happy with what they'd got, I'm sure I would have heard more from them. There were a lot of kudos in there, a lot of comments, a lot of thank you for doing what it is you're doing. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for more feedback on what works and what doesn't work. So I wish the response was higher. I wish voter turnout was higher, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Who did you use for the survey? Did you use Noble?
We used the same MailChimp mailing list that we use for our program guide, so that when people got the program guide, it was very easy for them to take the survey there as well, too.
And you created it?
I created the survey, ran it past the TV 79 Advisory Board to get their opinion and their blessings on it as well, too.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
I liked all the kudos to you. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. It's nice to feel appreciated from time to time, but, we do this because I think we really believe in what it is we're doing. And
great service.
we do a better, in all modesty, we do a better job than any other town in Fairfield County with their town government station, so.
That survey was terrific. I was going to ask who actually created, because it was a very good survey.
Very granular,
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
granular.
it was terrific.
Good.
Well, it was just great.
My sociology background is shining through. Nothing else?
No.
Great. Thank you
So,
very
and
much.
Jim, we're working on that light idea, right?
Yeah, we are. We're gonna, we have an
Something.
advisory board meeting this week, and I'll bring that up for sure.
All
Promise.
right.
On air.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jim. Next, we have Alicia.
Good morning. Alicia Sillers, Youth Director for the Darien Youth Commission. The only thing that I'd like to add is that we have 2 weather contingent programs coming up. So if you want to know what the weather's going to be like on Saturday, April 29th, it's going to rain. Because we'll be doing our drive-through food drive in partnership with Person to Person that day in Coons Lot, Darien train station parking lot. And then on May 12th is the much anticipated Hinley Fair Night, and again, it will rain. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, except for obviously we need to get you some umbrellas. Do you need volunteers?
Always.
Always. Good to know.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
How are you doing staffing the summer camps?
Better than last year, that's for certain.
That's good.
Still, a public PSA here. Just because you think your child will be a good camp counselor doesn't necessarily mean that he or she wants to be a camp counselor.
Alicia, because of the change in the location, have you noticed any drop-off in interest?
On
the camp, on registration side?
No, and I have not yet gone public with the final move.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to work my magic with something additional.
Got it.
So, no, we are at capacity. We have a copious waiting list. I've had many inquiries. Why can't we just add another section? Why can't we just hire more counselors? We just don't have space. As a matter of fact, the current space that we have is 50% less than we had at the original locations. So it's really a challenge.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alicia. Okay, that concludes the department head meeting. So, department heads, if you want to stay, terrific. If you want to move forward,
Quietly disperse.
you may disperse.
Monica, I just want to say that when I was on the Board of Ed, we led those ratings. I'm the ratings guy. And now that I'm here,
I noticed, like,
Seriously?
I'll be pinging Duke. And some others later today to remind them of that.
nice. Okay. I would like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order at 9:50 a.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item on the agenda, first Selectmen's report. Actually, Kate, I have presentations. But
We don't need that. There are none.
Right? Okay. All right. Last Sunday, Mark and I, my husband and I, had the pleasure of going over to Select's Woods and joining some other residents in helping lay down some mulch and dodge my husband's pitchforks. Turns out his aim was off a little bit. But anyhow, I want to thank everybody that was out there helping. And I know that residents, we have Earth Day coming up, and a lot of people will be helping out in their neighborhoods. So thank you for all of that. As Alicia mentioned, on Saturday, April 29th, the Youth Commission and Person to Person will host another drive-through food drive. So again, thank you to Kip Coons for offering the Coons parking lot, which is across from Tilly Pond, for the location for this food collection. And if people are interested in supporting it, the items specifically requested are hearty soups, cereal, oatmeal, pancake mix, peanut butter and jelly, canned fruits and vegetables, dried and canned beans, pasta, sauce, protein, granola bars, things like that. You can drop these items off at the parking lot between 9 a.m. and noon on April 29th. On April 26th, Darien State Representatives Tom O'Day and Tracy Mara will be holding a legislative update in the auditorium at Town Hall, and that will begin at 7 o'clock p.m. I've been in touch with Eversource regarding a donation to our town residents of trees and native trees and pollinator plants. I'm coordinating that right now, and we'll be providing more information as that comes forward. Our target date for that is April 28th, Arbor Day. Applications for the Great Island Advisory Committee are now being accepted in the Selectmen's office. On the website under News, there's a link for the page, and you can find the advisory charge, you can find the application, and you can find frequently asked questions. And you can also call our office if you have any questions. And every board and commission and committee is really important, and I say this often, but it can never be said too much. We really appreciate all of the volunteers that step forward in town. Right now, I just want to give a special notice that the HHR committee, the Hindley Homes and Royal Building Committee, could benefit from 2 additional members to that committee. Specifically, we're looking for people that have more of the construction experience. So perhaps you're recently retired, and that kind of was something that you did or you had an interest in, some experience in. I hope you will contact our office if you're interested in serving on that. And with that, that's all I have. Kate?
The only thing I wanted to say is that we are continuing to work on the website upgrade. I've had meetings with our project manager and with a consultant on all the things we need to do, the general mood, the colors, the photos, so it's moving along. That's it.
Okay, liaison reports.
The Blight Review Board met on April 12th, 2023, and all members present. We met Hank Ferentz, who will be transitioning into Robert Solito's role, and we look forward to his work, and we thank Robert for his and his continuing help. We also went through the 8 properties on our list. We officially took off the property on Hollow Tree Ridge Road, which was raised over the last couple of months. We also reviewed and made a request to Council's office to update liens. As you know, properties that are in blight have daily fines, although we don't file liens on those cumulative amounts for every 6 months or so. Some of those deadlines were a little bit past, so there'll be some new liens filed, and we continue to review each property on the list every month. We encourage people on the list to come in and talk to us and work with us. That's it.
Right, people have an opportunity to come and see you monthly.
They do, and we always offer the opportunity for people to come in. We can adjourn to executive session if they don't want to be recorded on TV 79 and seen by the 2% of the respondents who watch our Light Review Board meetings.
Not a draw there.
Yeah, not a draw there.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah. For Thriving Youth, on May 10th at 7 p.m., the Middlesex Parent Association, along with the Darien High School Parent Association, the YWCA Parent Awareness, and Thriving Youth are presenting an interactive discussion with New York Times bestselling author, CBS Mornings contributor, and clinical psychologist Dr. Lisa D'Amour, and will be featuring her new book, The Emotional Lives of Teenagers, Raising Connected, Capable, and Compassionate Adolescents. Dr. D'Amour will be joined by Rena Neiman, an Ask Lisa podcast co-host, television journalist, and Darien mother who will moderate the discussion. Her book is available at the Baird Bookstore, and 20% of those proceeds will benefit the Middlesex Parent Association. And the next meeting for the Thriving Youth is on May 19th. For the Hinley Homes and Rural Building Committee, we thank you for your call for volunteers because that would tremendously help us. The committee last met on April 5th, and we're looking to schedule our next meeting about a week from now. At our last meeting, we approved an electrical contractor for switchgear and electrical distribution equipment, very exciting, and reviewed bids for a moving company the schools will use for their furnishings during the construction phasing. The two main upcoming items are the following. On April 28th, it's the anticipated start of bidding for Hinley and Royal for the phasing, and this is contingent upon the receipt of approval letters from the Office of State Construction Grant and OSCG&R, so I'm missing an R, sorry, office. And on May 5th, the anticipated start of the biddings for Holmes, and same, they're waiting for that receipt of the letter from the state. And we're looking to dates for next week, and it will be at 6 p.m. and it'll be virtual, but we will notify the meeting as soon as we can. Any questions?
Yeah, so I did speak with Mike and Jill, or Chris and Jill, but so how likely is it that you'll get one bidder for all three projects? Not really, right?
That's a phenomenal question, and I don't know. We've been lucky to, have some great people, but it depends on if they have the capability to manage all three projects. It's a lot, and some may be simultaneous. So it depends on their capability.
Right. Okay. Any other questions for Sarah? Okay, Marcy.
Oxford Building Committee has not met since our last meeting, so I don't have any new report. Neither has the Mental Health Task Force, although I do want to give a plug for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness Walk that Darien High School will be hosting on April 30th. Walk starts at 10 a.m. Registration is 9 a.m. if you haven't previously registered, but currently the goal is to raise $5,000 towards the American Foundation for Prevention of Suicide, and Darien is at $4,680. So we're very close to hitting our goal. My hope is for this event to be a very healing and very nurturing experience for our youth who experienced the tragedies of last spring. I've done this walk myself, and it is a beautiful walk. Really a time to get together with people who have experienced mental health, who has experienced loss and suicide. It's a great experience for survivors and for anybody who has sort of gone through that journey. I highly recommend anybody on the Board of Selectmen to be there and to engage in it, and definitely donate, and people in the community get involved the best that we can. So again, that's on Sunday morning, April 30th, 10 a.m. start time at Darien High School.
Okay. Anything else?
That's
Any
it.
Questions for Mercy? Okay. We are running out of time. Public comment. Do we have anybody that wants to speak for public comment? Nope. Okay. Any emails, Kate?
No, there were no emails.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a request to approve an updated fee schedule from the Health Department.
Thank you. In the 15 years that I've been here, we really haven't made any substantial changes to our fee schedule. We continually review and compare and contrast with other departments throughout the state, and we are still near the top, if not at the top, in terms of the fees we charge for all of our services. And I believe you were sent an attachment with all of our fees. What we're proposing to do here today is to request a realignment of our fees as it pertains to restaurants, in particular, so that it aligns with the FDA food code changes, which has redefined the classification of food service facilities. Previously, we had our food classified according to food preparation processes and the risk to public health. In the FDA food code, it's really risk-based according to population. So what that does is our highest feed establishments of full service were considered class 4s. Under the FDA food code, class 4s are now vulnerable populations, which would be senior centers, the assisted living facilities. So we would go from approximately, well, not approximately, but from 62 establishments in class 4s to 5. And that includes our senior center, which doesn't have a fee. We have to push our class 4s currently into class 3s, and if we kept the fee schedule the same, we would lose a lot of money, and our services aren't going to change. We still have to spend a lot of time inspecting those facilities. So the primary thing we're doing here is just adjusting those numbers to correlate with the amount of work that we're doing. We're still going to be inspecting the places as much. Most places are not going to see an increase in their fees because they're going from class 4 to class 3, but we just want to have class 3 be what we were charging basically for class 4s before. The biggest difference in our fees are going to be that we're proposing to have a fee schedule to the schools. When the schools were under town administration, we didn't charge for them, but they're vendors, and we charge vendors. We charge vendors at park and rec facilities, so that's something
You're referring
that we
to the
do.
cafeteria. The cafeterias are now not run by employees, they're run by an outside service.
Right, exactly. So they're vendors. So it's a different setup. So we're proposing to assess a fee for the vendors working at the schools. And that's really pretty much the only changes that we're proposing. It's a realignment of our fees.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
So David, I'm trying to understand, if we're at the top end now and we haven't changed our fees in 15 years, how does that work out? Like, have other communities been raising their fees but still haven't caught up to us, or?
Pretty much what it is.
Okay.
Pretty much what it's been. You know, when I started here, I came from Farmington Valley, and there was a tremendous difference in the fees there and here. You know, so, and you know, we're still, as I said, you know, and that was part of my package that I submitted to you, was a comparison with other departments so that
Right.
you could see that we are still, you know, in good shape as far as fees. And I wouldn't recommend changing them at this point.
Okay. And as far as the school, have you spoken with the school about this potential change?
No, I have not.
No? Okay, and do you know if other communities have the similar arrangement?
Most places do not charge for town-administered
Right.
programs, but do charge when it's being run by outside concerns, yes.
Okay.
I have an additional question to that. So it looks like a $700 fee. Is that per each school cafeteria, or is that for the entire company?
I'm sorry, what was that
I
question?
think it's 400.
Is the fee for the schools applied to each school or just to the one company?
Right, okay, the 400, right, so like, you have, 5 elementary schools and a middle school and a high school. Is it gonna be 400 for, I don't even know who does the.
I wonder if it's per kitchen.
Or if it's per kitchen, that's my question.
Yes,
It's per kitchen?
yes.
So every school will get that fee?
Yeah, $400.
The vendor will get the fee.
The vendor,
The
right.
vendor would be charged $400 for each facility, yes.
For each facility, okay.
We go in and inspect them 4 times a year, so.
The other question is, there was a charge, food service, temporary booths, events, farmer's market. Is that every week, the vendor
No.
who goes? It's just one time?
Once a year.
Okay.
And at the high school and the snack bar, outside, that's run by kids and volunteers, that's not subject to this.
The snack bar?
You
mean the
At
the football games?
ballpark,
At the
the
football
ball
games?
field?
Yeah.
I think that's run by the,
Is that,
I think it's run by the vendor. I don't know.
is it run by the vendor?
Well, my kids can charge it to their lunch account, I do know that.
No, he's talking about the high school stadium, the brick concession
Yes.
stand.
I believe that would be one of the seasonal facilities, which would still be a fee, if it's being run by a vendor. So we have had Valvalas, for example, ran it one year, and they had to get a permit separate because they're making money off of it, and we're inspecting it. So for those particular cases, we do have a fee, yes.
Right. I mean, I would like to hear more about the relationship between these fees in the schools, and in particular, the outside concession stand, because, and I might be completely wrong in this, but I thought that some of those monies, go back into school programs, and I don't know that I want to, I mean, in essence, these fees are going to be placed back at the consumer, because the vendor's going to charge the consumer. So,
For nonprofits, we don't charge. So if this is going to be considered a nonprofit operation, we don't have a fee for that. So there are events that take place at, say, the parks.
right.
Nonprofit, we don't charge for nonprofit events. So that's part of our fee schedule, is no fee for that.
Okay.
So for example, if the Darien Booster Club ran the snack bar at a football game, there's no charge.
Right.
Okay. All right. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
And that's always been that way.
Yeah, we're not looking to charge those types of operations.
Okay.
And when will these take effect, David?
Well, I have the proposed regulations before town attorney now, so once he signs off on that, and assuming that you vote to approve this, we'll run it by town council to see. My goal is to have it be ready for the fiscal year, if not sooner. And the reason for that is we have all these new establishments coming in, and they're really subject to the FDA food code, and I'd like to have everything aligned so that when a new facility opens, they have their permit with the proper classification associated with that, because we're like in the twilight zone right now with our permitting because of the transition.
Yeah, I saw, we did 120 food establishments last year, and we have like 15 right now you're working on, and 10 in the queue. Does that sound right? 25 additional?
Yeah, could
Really?
be.
That's a big jump.
It's,
So you're hoping that that new group will fall under these
that would,
adjusted rates?
I mean, the FDA code is in effect statewide, but it's not yet here.
Right.
So what I would like to do is make sure that we can expedite that as best we can, just so the classifications, the fee schedule, and our regulations are in line with what's the law in Connecticut now.
Okay. So you don't really give these establishments any kind of heads up other than you send them the new rate, is that right?
Well, we're not going to change anything. For everybody who's got a permit now, who got a permit under the existing regulations, that's fine. But they have all been notified that there's going to be a change, and they won't see the difference until their permit renewals come due in December of this year. So they will be notified again.
Okay.
There's going to be further outreach to provide more information of the changes that the FTA code does mandate, for example, allergen training for staff and for management. So we're going to have to do a little bit more work with that. But they will be informed.
There will be
But it's
outreach.
not, there's not going to be any kind of changes that anybody's going to have to do between now and permit renewal time. But what I would like to have in effect is that for those new places coming online, that they're in conformance with the code.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right. Okay. May I have a motion to approve an updated fee schedule for the health department? Sarah moves, Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you.
All right, next up is discuss and accept, or discuss a request to accept a gift of electronics from the
Good morning
foundation.
once again, Don Anderson from the Police Department. Heartened on two things. I was thinking the department heads meeting was separate and distinct from the Board of Selectmen meeting, and I was coming back tonight to another Board of Selectmen meeting, so happy to find out that I'm not coming back to another Board of Selectmen meeting.
Actually, we have another one
So,
tonight.
that
Just
makes
for
my
you.
day. And secondly, I'm happy to appear before this board, not asking for money, to say that we have money coming in with our partnership with the Darien Foundation. I think most of the folks here probably know that when the new boat came into use 7, 8 years ago, Darien Technology Fund, which is now the Darien Foundation, was instrumental in getting equipment on Marine 127. Our Marine folks sat down with the Darien Foundation several weeks ago. We thought it was an exploratory and discussion phase. Much to their happiness, they found out at that meeting the Darien Foundation just went ahead and approved technology upgrades for the Marine Division at a price of $124,000. So I would highly recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they take the donation from the Darien Foundation with gratitude from the Police Department as we upgrade our Marine Division. As you can see, some of the items that they're funding are 5 portable radios that are going to be in appearance similar to our radios that we carry on duty, but it will have Marine Division frequencies in there as well. These are 5 portable radios that we would not have to fund out of our budget request, out of capital expense, and these radios, I can't believe they're almost $10,000 a piece, but that's the going rate for these radios, so it's almost $40-something thousand for 5 radios. So, extreme generosity to the Darien Foundation. I think, again, it points to the fact that the folks who live here and the folks who run this town government think that the police department's doing a good job, and it's a worthwhile investment on public-private partnerships to keep us at the top of the heap, so.
Well, first, I want to say a very big thank you to the foundation for this very generous gift. Just a couple of questions, Chief. Does this equipment have a warranty or anything? What repairs? How does all that work?
Yeah, it would all come with a factory warranty on all these things. There would be no out-year costs above and beyond software support and maintenance that we have on the existing equipment.
Okay.
So we're not putting in anything that's brand new. It's upgraded the similar equipment that we have.
Okay.
So I don't anticipate there being any additional yearly operational expenses on this equipment.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, was the software updates kind of thing. That's already folded in.
Yeah, and we have some of that on our existing equipment, so I don't think there would be any additional operational expenses in our annual budget.
Right.
This stuff, it's lightning speed like all electronics, right? What's state of the art today, 6 years from now is going to be obsolete, just what we have to deal with. But this will put us back on top as far as equipment goes. As everyone knows here, sometimes when you're out on Long Island Sound, it's not at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, it's 3 a.m. and you can't see your hand in front of your face. And there's no backup coming other than other Marine divisions from around. It's not like you can send 4 or 5 cars out there. So having equipment and having our folks have access to the best equipment out there is a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah. We're extremely appreciative of the generosity of the Darien Foundation, for sure. Any other questions for Chief?
I just assume that I'm not a software guru on sonar equipment, but I'm thinking that the majority of this is for night rescues on the water.
At night rescue and recovery operations, not so much rescue. Some of the side scanning sonar is for recovery purposes, when you get past the rescue phase and you have to find something in the water or someone in the water. But the infrared is for nighttime, the forward-facing infrared. And that's where you can find things. I've been out on that boat, or on a marine boat here, where you can't see the stern or the bow when you're standing at the helm. That's how socked in it is. Sometimes at night you just cannot see. So this is equipment that you have to have in a nighttime operation to effectively, find what you're looking for out there, and even more importantly, not hit what you don't want to hit when you're out there at night.
Thank you.
No further?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
May I have a motion to accept the gift of electronics valued at $123,540 for the Police Marine Division? Mike moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Thank you, Chief.
If I
And
could
again,
just close out one question from earlier from the department heads meeting, is that 55 people are attending the training this week. 13 police officers, 2 dispatchers, and the rest are EMS and fire personnel. So 55 of your first responders will be there this time around.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, finding that too. Okay. Next item on the agenda is discuss proposal to reactivate the ARPA Advisory Committee.
Right. So when the ARPA committee made its proposal to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM, on allocating the funds, the funds are all allocated, and within our charter, the Board of Finance has the power to do any transfers as needed. But because some of the program or the allocations that we think are going to go unused are large, I wanted you to consider reactivating the ARPA committee to make further recommendations on that allocation to the Board of Finance and to this board. Because we're talking about some of the ones that are over $1 million may not be sufficient to do the project that they were allocated for, and so better ways of funding those projects, or they may not be able to be completed within the time frame that we need to do it. It's not necessary to reactivate the ARPA committee, but I'm just throwing it out there as you may want to consider to have that original group, because it involved people from the RTM, from I believe there was somebody from the Advisory Board of Health, from the Board of Finance, from the Board of Selectmen.
Chamber.
Pardon?
Chamber of Commerce.
There was a member of the Chamber of Commerce to have a broad look at how best to reallocate those funds.
Do you have an idea of how much we're looking at?
It's possibly up to $2.5 million.
My own thinking is that's a significant amount, and I think reactivating.
Yeah.
But we would need to find a couple new people.
We would need to find a couple new people. The RTM member has moved out of town. One of the Board of Finance members is no longer on the Board of Finance. So yeah, you would need to have some new people. From the Board of Selectmen, it was you and John.
Okay. So, but that wouldn't be hard to do that.
I don't think so.
No.
And the RTM members specifically from F&B.
Right. Yeah, I think it's some big decisions, so I would be in favor of reactivating.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. May I have a motion to reactivate the ARPA advisory? Mike moves, Marcy seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Terrific. Okay, next item on the agenda is to review the minutes of the April 3rd meeting. That was a regular meeting. Any additions, corrections, changes? Nothing? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Marcy moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Terrific. Next item is only one set of minutes, Kate?
Yeah.
Only one
just
set of minutes? Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, next item is adjourn to executive session for discussion of potential leases, and then we will reconvene here to adjourn, right?
Right.
We need to
Wait.
do that, right? Okay.
Motion to go into
Yeah,
executive.
I'm sorry. Motion, Mike moves, Sarah seconds, unanimous. Okay, all right, 79, we'll be back in a few. Hi, 79, may I have a motion to return to open session? Marcy moves. Mike seconds. May I have a motion to adjourn? Marcy moves. Sarah seconds. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, 79.
All right, those are the signed things.